Benavidez Morrell, who wins?
It's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be a good fight. 50-50 fight.
And I think that it's gonna be a war. In my eyes, I say it is a 50-50 fight.
These fighters, I think David Morrell may have needed, one or two more real tests before he really, build the resolve to be able to handle a guy with the ability, the power.
Boxing pros
share predictions for Benavidez versus Morrell fight as the highly anticipated showdown between David Benavidez and David Morrell approaches this Saturday, February 1st, at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Boxing experts have weighed in on their predictions. Former world champion Shawn Porter favors Benavidez to come out on top in their 12-round main event. Porter, like many Benavidez supporters, believes his extensive professional experience gives him the edge over the 11-0 Morrell. He points out that the level of competition Benavidez has faced sets him apart. However, some question Benavidez's recent performances. His wins over a past-prime Demetrius Andrade and a Canelo Alvarez-defeated Caleb Plant haven't significantly boosted his credibility in this matchup. Moreover, his last fight against Oleksandr Gvozdyk exposed some weaknesses. He struggled with Gvozdyk's power, ran out of gas, and showed vulnerabilities. Porter sees the fight as a close contest but slightly favors Benavidez, giving him a 55-45 advantage. He expressed excitement about the David vs. David battle, highlighting Benavidez's superior experience and natural fit for the 175 pounds division. He emphasized that Benavidez has endured the kind of resistance that comes with a grueling 12-round fight, something Morrell has yet to experience at the professional level. Morrell's last fight against Eidos Yerbasinali presented a different kind of challenge but didn't push him through the adversity of a highly competitive 12-round bout. With both fighters possessing size and skill, the stage is set for a thrilling showdown.
That's 50-50 right there. If anything, 55-45 for Benavidez. I love David versus David. I love everything about the fight. The thing I feel that Benavidez has over Morrell is experience, is true strength. Both of those guys are big guys, but I think Benavidez is more of the natural 175-pounder.
Yeah, Morrell's such a high-level technical fighter, but Jose mentioned what you just mentioned, they feel like the experience is gonna eventually show through. I don't know, take me into that, how experience can trump talent and technicality like that.
You know what, the thing that I know for this fight, with when you are in a competitive fight that's gonna go 12 rounds, of course you're prepared for the 12.
Shawn Porter highlights that David Morrell has yet to face an opponent who applies relentless pressure or matches the sheer size of a cruiserweight like David Benavidez. While Morrell easily handled Eidos Yerbasinali in his 175-pound debut last August, he was never forced onto the back foot the way Benavidez is expected to pressure him this Saturday. Though Yerbasinali carries more one-punch power than Benavidez, he didn't employ the relentless volume punching that the Mexican monster is known for. If Benavidez recklessly charges in, he could walk into Morrell's sharp counters or suffer a punishing body shot. Benavidez's own debut at 175 pounds against Oleksandr Gvozdyk was unimpressive. He ran out of gas after 8 rounds and barely survived the 12th, absorbing a barrage of combinations in the final 30 seconds. Porter explains that while Benavidez matches Morrell in power and speed, his ability to box effectively will be key. However, this fight presents a mental and physical challenge that Morrell has never encountered before. One major question remains: can Benavidez go toe-to-toe with Morrell without hitting the canvas? His success at 168 pounds came against aging, smaller opponents, but that approach faltered at 175 against Gvozdyk. He blamed an alleged hand injury, but critics saw it as an excuse. Morrell's ability to wear down Benavidez, particularly targeting his vulnerable midsection, could be a key factor. When asked if Benavidez could stop Morrell in 6 rounds, similar to his win over Demetrius Andrade in 2023, Porter was unsure. He speculated that it might take 8 or 9 rounds since Morrell is bigger, younger, and physically stronger than Andrade. He described the fight as a battle of resilience on both sides, making for an exciting and unpredictable matchup. Benavidez must be cautious. Securing a knockout without exposing himself to serious risk will be difficult. His super middleweight resume lacks depth, and this fight will determine whether he can succeed at light heavyweight. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez, who has connections to both fighters, sees this as a 50-50 fight. After failing to secure a bout with Canelo at 168 pounds, Benavidez moved up to light heavyweight, debuting with a win over Gvozdyk. Morrell also entered the division with a points victory over Yerbasinali. While bookmakers favor Benavidez, Cuban Olympic gold medalist Andy Cruz predicts a knockout victory for Morrell. Cruz compares Morrell's relaxed, playful approach to his own style, noting that Benavidez appears tense and burdened by the weight of expectations. Benavidez never actively pursued this fight, having sidestepped Morrell's callouts since 2022. For years, he capitalized on fighting aging, smaller opponents. A loss to Morrell could shatter his reputation, leaving his fans disillusioned. Many have viewed him as the rightful challenger to Canelo, but few have questioned the level of competition he has faced.
And man, how do you think Benavidez does? Your gym mate a week after you fight. How do you think that fight goes with Morrell, man?
I think David, he's looking very good. I've been in the gym with him for the past few weeks, and he's been looking great shape, doing some amazing things in the ring. Like always, David's a monster. So I think he'll take care of business February 1st. I think he might even get the stoppage against David.
Benavidez has earned his Mexican Monster nickname due to his relentless and multifaceted attack. However, Diego Pacheco, who sparred with him just 3 months ago, highlighted an often overlooked aspect of his game, his defense. When asked about Benavidez's underrated skills, Pacheco's eyes lit up as he emphasized his defensive abilities. He noted that while Benavidez tends to stand upright, his defense is surprisingly effective. Pacheco explained that Benavidez is highly skilled at pulling back to evade punches and quickly countering, making him a much more defensively sound fighter than many realize.
David Morrell is a guy that you can't take lightly, He's a great fighter. He's up there for a reason, One of the best Cubans out right now, so it's going to be a great fight, but I just feel like David is one of those guys too who's a monster and just doesn't let anyone take it from him, And when he's in there, he's going in there for the kill, and of course, I feel like Morrell is maybe going to be his toughest opponent yet.
Pacheco added that Benavidez is always looking to improve. He shared with Zittel that Benavidez records all his training sessions, paying close attention to every detail. According to Pacheco, Benavidez meticulously studies his footage, focusing on small aspects like footwork and shoulder movements, making adjustments as needed. Pacheco also appreciated Benavidez's willingness to share his knowledge, constantly offering tips and suggestions that could help improve his own training.
Prevail.
I think he has a really good jab. He's a good fighter. He keeps his distance really well, so that I feel like he's gonna make it hard for David in the early rounds. But like we saw with Caleb Plant, Caleb Plant was doing a great job boxing the first few rounds when he fought David, but then David just has that chip in his shoulder where he's just coming forward. Even on the clinches, he's still punching. He's still getting punches in, and I feel like when you're boxing a guy like David and he just keeps coming forward no matter what you do, it just makes it hard mentally for you to keep that same game plan and stick to it, because you have a monster like him throwing big punches coming
Gabriel Rosado believes that David Morrell's relentless taunts have awakened a fierce side in WBC interim light heavyweight champion David Benavidez, fueling his determination ahead of their highly anticipated showdown this Saturday. Rosado predicts that in their 12-round main event, Benavidez will aim to overwhelm Morrell with a high volume of punches, seeking a knockout victory. Benavidez, who is unaccustomed to being labeled as outdated or one-dimensional by his opponents, faces a unique challenge in the technically refined Cuban, Morrell. Morrell, on the other hand, is surprised by how straightforward Benavidez's style appears. For years, Benavidez has relied on his size and relentless output to dominate at 168 pounds, but now he faces his first true test in the form of the formidable Morrell. Rosado, who has known Benavidez for years, favors him in this matchup but warns against underestimating Morrell. "I favor Benavidez, but you can't sleep on Morrell," Rosado told Fight Hub TV. He argues that Morrell is the one who needs this fight more, as Benavidez didn't have to take it. Morrell hit the jackpot with this fight. Nobody was really calling him out, so that shows what kind of fighter Benavidez is. He said, "Come on, let's go, let's run it." However, Rosado fails to mention that Benavidez showed no interest in fighting Morrell for 2 years after initially being called out by him in 2022. Rosado believes Morrell's trash talk has awakened a different kind of beast in Benavidez. "No one really acts like that with Benavidez," Rosado said, referencing Morrell's repeated questioning of Benavidez's courage and punching power. Morrell, the WBA regular 175-pound champion, hasn't struck gold by landing this fight, as he enters as the belt holder, not Benavidez. If Morrell were a contender without a title, it would be easy to claim he hit the jackpot, but that's not the case here. It's Benavidez who has something to gain. Rosado anticipates a firefight, with both fighters clashing and testing each other's limits. They're both going to land shots. "I think Morrell is the bigger puncher of the two, but Benavidez gets you out with volume." So, what's going to win? Rosado questioned.
It's going to be, I think Morrell's going to have to find that shot that really, not only drops, but, concuss. He got to knock David Benavidez out. And there's fighters you can make quit. I don't think neither one of these fighters you can make quit. Sometimes you got to knock them out. And I think this is one of those type of fights where, in order to secure victory, in order to secure victory, one of these guys is going to have to end it with inside the distance. And I think when you look at, what they bring to the table, David Benavidez is going to have a little reach and size advantage.
It appears that Tarver has been swept up in the hype, echoing the same arguments often made by Benavidez supporters. However, if you tune out the noise from his fanbase and focus on two critical factors, his imposing size and the aging, smaller opponents he's been dominating, it becomes clear that Benavidez is essentially a classic weight bully. Tarver did acknowledge that Morrell would be one of the more skilled fighters Benavidez has faced, recognizing Morrell's considerable talent and the experience Benavidez has gained from facing top-tier opponents like Caleb Plant and others. That he also pointed to the tough challenge Benavidez encountered against light heavyweight Alexander Gvozdyk, emphasizing the level of competition Benavidez has faced in his career. That said, Benavidez doesn't deserve all the hype for his win over Caleb Plant, especially when compared to Canelo Alvarez's far more dominant performance against the same opponent. While Plant managed to hold his own in the first 5 rounds against Benavidez, showcasing his skills, Canelo completely overwhelmed him and secured a knockout victory. If you're trying to build up Benavidez based on his performance against Plant, consider this: Plant lacks significant power, and he had already been stopped by Canelo before facing Benavidez. The truth is, Benavidez didn't outperform Canelo against Plant and was actually on the losing end of nearly every round in the first 6. Plant exposed several weaknesses in Benavidez's game. If you're using Benavidez's performance against Plant as evidence that he would defeat Morrell, you're missing the bigger picture. Morrell presents a different kind of challenge, one that could exploit the flaws Plant revealed and capitalize on Benavidez's reliance on size and volume. The fight against Morrell will be a true test of whether Benavidez can rise above his reputation as a weight bully and prove himself against a skilled, powerful opponent. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so you never miss out on our future content. Thanks for watching. Looking at Benavidez's fight against Gvozdyk, his weaknesses become apparent, his resume lacks true challenges, and his struggles at 175 raise doubts. Light heavyweight contender Ados Yerbasinali believes Morrell must stay composed in the first 6 to 8 rounds to secure victory. Meanwhile, super middleweight contender Diego Pacheco, who has trained with Benavidez, remains confident that he will emerge victorious, potentially stopping Morrell. With the fight fast approaching, the boxing world is split on the outcome. Will Benavidez prove he belongs in the light heavyweight division, or will Morrell expose him as overhyped? This David versus David clash promises to be one of the most intriguing matchups in recent memory.
I think one of the, more gifted fighters that Benavidez has faced. I think David Morrell comes in with a lot of talent. You got a guy that has a talent like both of these guys, and they rise to the occasion. It's the moment that really gets these guys up, and I think this is the type of fight that you can say it's going to bring the best out of both of these guys, man.
However, this fight may not unfold as the all-out brawl Rosado expects, especially with Morrell's Cuban boxing tradition bringing a sharp tactical awareness to the ring. Unlike the stationary opponents Benavidez has faced in the past, Morrell is unlikely to stand directly in front of him, making it harder for Benavidez to land his volume-heavy punches that in Benavidez's bout with Alexander Gvozdyk last June. Signs of fatigue began to show by the 8th round, as the added weight of moving up to 175 pounds seemed to take its toll. The punches at light heavyweight also carry more power than those at 168, which could pose a problem for Benavidez. Fighters who can move and avoid standing still can neutralize volume-dependent fighters like Benavidez, as seen in William Zepeda's struggles against Tevin Farmer. Rosado believes Morrell will need to set traps and land big shots to win. Morrell is definitely going to have to set traps and land some big shots in that fight, he said. Morrell is likely to use movement to land powerful blows on Benavidez, who, with his relentless, Robocop-like approach, may walk right into many of those punches, amplifying Morrell's already devastating power. Two-time world champion Antonio Tarver believes Morrell might need a knockout to defeat Benavidez. Morrell might lose to the Cuban star in the first round if Benavidez bum-rushes him the way he does every opponent, Tarver said. Morrell's power and technical skill force Benavidez to abandon the raw brute force tactics he relied on at 168 pounds. Tarver points out that Benavidez has spent much of his career fighting smaller opponents, while Morrell brings a heavier punch than any opponent Benavidez has faced so far. Tarver also noted that while Benavidez has a slight height advantage, Morrell holds a 4-inch reach advantage. He emphasized that Morrell would need to land a shot that not only drops Benavidez but also causes significant damage, suggesting that a knockout might be necessary for Morrell to secure a victory. This fight will likely require one of the fighters to end it inside the distance to claim victory, Tarver said. In conclusion, this matchup promises to be a thrilling clash of styles, with Benavidez's relentless volume pitted against Morrell's power and technical skill. The outcome may hinge on whether Morrell can land a decisive knockout blow or if Benavidez's volume and pressure will prove too much for the Cuban champion.